for me, the whole thing is a peace of mind thing.
Yes, very much.
That's what it is for me. You know? I mean, I know that that's going to get paid. That's going to get paid. I mean, I don't even look at the bills now.
Welcome to My Money, My Story, where we chat to some amazing people about their money story and hear just how much money can really impact your life. And I'm your host, Tammy Barton, founder and director of MyBudget.
We begin today by acknowledging the Kaurna people, traditional custodians of the land on which we are recording our podcast today. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and we would like to extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples.
Welcome. Today we have Michelle and Phil here on our My Money, My Story podcast. Welcome. We're very excited to have you chatting with us today, and I'm excited to hear your journey and your experience with money and also your experience with MyBudget as well. So let's jump into it. Yes, thank you.
Thanks
and
for
you
the
guys
invite.
have come all the way from Brisbane to do this, so we're
sunny
very
and extremely hot Queensland.
Yes.
To the beautiful.
And how are you
temperature.
enjoying Adelaide?
Yeah,
Oh,
nice
love
and
it.
cool.
Love it.
Yeah.
You walk around outside and I'm not sweating. It's beautiful.
Yes, I do love that about Adelaide. All right, so let's jump into it. Can you start by just telling us a little bit about yourselves, your family, and anything that you feel comfortable sharing your life in Queensland?
Okay, well, we met, I was 16 and he was like in his early 20s. And we've been together now for about 38 years.
Congratulations.
So we've been married 34 years.
Yep.
And we have 3 kids. During that time, I got my teaching degree. So Phil's been in sales. We actually met at Macca's. So we got married. I was a crew trainer. He was a manager, and we met there, and young and in love. And but now, we've got 3 kids. They're all grown up now. So our eldest is 28, our youngest is 25. We have 1 grandson who is my heart. He's beautiful, and we're really comfortably situated now. Like it was a lot of struggle at the very beginning. I was 19 when we got married. We were young.
Yeah. And how old were you when you had the kids?
I'm 25, so not quite as. We got a lot of stuff ironed out before we had the kids, but they came along at the right time. But we did 3 kids in 3.5 years. So we banged those out.
Like most couples, I mean, of our generation, we got married young.
Yeah.
And, in these days, that's not necessarily the way it goes. So you see a lot of people getting married these days, they're in their 30s.
Yes.
I mean, back when we got married, it was pretty much the end thing. You'd be married and have kids by 25. It was just the way it was. But, we suffered like most people do when they first get married. You're used to living by yourself and having your own individual lives, and then you come together and you try and live as a married couple. And we're both fairly active people. We're both very busy at the time. And I think that's just the way things were back then. And as much as you try and your family tries to assimilate you and get you ready for that, I don't think anyone really knows until you start. We certainly weren't ready for it, I can tell you that right now.
We chucked ourselves in the deep end. We moved out of home. I'd never lived out of home. I went from being at home with my parents, and that wasn't a financially stable area. As I moved out, my parents suffered greatly when the interest rate rise of the 80s. Yeah. That took their house away from them, and that was the tragedy. They signed their house over the night before we got married.
Wow.
Because they had to sell. And no fault of their own.
No.
They'd lost that house. They worked so hard to get it, and those interest rates just took them out. And they were very devastated by that, and it affected them financially for years and years.
Yeah, it did a lot,
and was really hard to watch. And because watching that, I never really had any understanding of how to manage money. Yeah, numbers are not my thing. I will never teach math, and I think I probably have a form of dyslexia that just swaps numbers around, and they just don't do numbers. And so I tended to be the one doing the work with the money because he was working a lot more than me. And so I was the one doing the budgeting, and I was rubbish at it. I was really rubbish.
Well, I was the opposite. I was young guy, single,
no
commitments, no nothing to spend money. I mean, saving money at my age, what the hell is that? No,
Yeah. Yeah.
no one
Well, you
cares
sound
about
like
that.
Yep.
You just spend it. So I was used to earning it and spending it, earning it and spending it, and not saving it. So
I remember you
I
shopping.
think,
One time we went out and you bought a $300 pair of sunglasses.
yeah, because that's just what you did.
Wow, look at him.
You
He's
know, I mean,
buying really
that's-
expensive. I love this guy.
Because you got the money, so you spend it. And I mean, I feel sorry for a lot of young couples these days trying to get a start, because unless there's a system already in place that they can follow or go to for advice. I mean, one of the big topics that people don't like talking about is money.
Yeah.
I mean,
People would
that's-
rather talk about sex than money.
yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
exactly. And I think that just doesn't matter how old you are or what generation you are, that just seems to be everywhere. And I see it now with younger guys that I work with and work for and work around. You see, money's not a topic they want to talk about.
Yeah.
And no one wants to say anything about it, whereas I think Michelle and I are both spruikers of MyBudget
Yeah,
because
thank you.
we've seen what it does. We've lived it. So, and young couples need that.
Yeah.
And you've seen the transformation in your own lives, and that's what we're here to unpack and learn more about. So when was it that we'll keep on that journey. So you had your 3 children and just talk
So
about.
we just bought our home. So we
bought it, yeah.
We couldn't get into the housing market because we couldn't save.
Correct.
We just couldn't. Money would come in and there would be some other expense. We did put our kids.
We had the income. We had a small amount of savings, but it wasn't enough.
But it never stayed there.
Back then, and we
Always.
didn't show a confident history of saving, is what the bank told me.
Yeah.
They said, look, we can see you got money, we can see you save money, but we can't see a progression of you saving money towards a goal.
Yeah.
That was our story from the bank.
And then what we decided to do was, my parents, they had savings, but they were also older, and so they couldn't come out of the house loss because they're too old now to get the loan that would last 25 years. They
Correct.
couldn't fund a 25-year loan, but we could. And so we joined together and we bought a house together. And so we all got a loan and fudged, and we did it. We pulled it off and we got
you
this
made it
house.
happen.
We got it together.
And we got a serious fixer-upper.
Yeah.
So an ugly house but in the right street.
That's the best way to do it.
Pretty much
So I'm told.
describes it perfectly.
The same street that our kids went to school on, so they walk, so we wouldn't, because I was about to start teaching full-time in Ipswich, which is a good 45-minute drive from home. And
It's very much about the location. For us,
that's where we wanted to be, near the school.
We actually looked at a couple of houses on the same street.
Yeah, but
To put it in a nutshell, and we went for
ended
this one because this was one we could afford to buy at the time and work on it to
and
turn
my
it
dad
into a
was a builder.
family house.
So my dad was a jack of everything. He could do everything, everything from concreting to building. And so they took the underneath of the house, which was just blank space, big open area.
Yeah, it was like a one-bedroom
big, huge
unit.
garage.
So it's like a Queenslander style home,
No,
was
it's
it?
a brick style.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
so I would call it your Queensland high-set home. So it's a big box.
Yep.
Standard Queensland house.
Not a Queenslander with a big veranda and all that
Yes.
stuff.
Yep.
No, not a timber home.
But we built in underneath, and it's utility space now because it's not the right height. But it's a 2-bedroom apartment down there now.
Yep. Great.
And you would not recognise our house since we bought it. We paid just under 400,000 for it. and
Just
it's
under
now
400 for it.
well
now. It's
over $1
worth
million.
Well over $1 million.
Yeah.
now.
Wow. Well done.
Which in the Queensland market doesn't mean a lot.
Yeah.
What you pay for down here.
Yeah.
But I mean, our house is in a situation now where it's
Good spot.
would be ideal for a family of, say, 3 or 4 kids.
Yep.
And mum and dad that want to move in downstairs, which is why we bought it. And
Yes.
that was our plan for it long term.
And there's a lot of duplexes going up, so they could also just level it and use a piece of land, which is nice and
Exactly.
close to everything. So it's good. It was the wrong house in the right street.
Yeah. So it sounds like it was a great investment, but you also added value to that, and you did what you needed to do.
But we struggled.
Yeah.
So we got the house, we had the mortgage,
Yep.
but we were also paying it with my parents. And so there was times where we couldn't meet the actual date, so we'd have to wait a couple. And I never understood that paying your loan a couple of days late impacted the amount of interest you paid. And that was an education that took a lot to get into my head, and that paying your mortgage late was bad. And that we just kept creeping until we got to the point where we were a month or so behind because we were always paying
a couple of days
late.
Yeah.
And we would have to take money from here. And I could never see the full extent of what it was we were paying. We had some very badly thought out loans, finance loans. And we had, I think we had a couple of those, and we had
typical young couple loans, you know, like you see a car, you want a car, you go and buy a car.
Yes.
And that's how it works at that age, you know, whereas now at my age and at Michelle's age, you see a car and you go, okay, can I afford that before I buy it?
Well, now we do.
That's
things
that you need to learn as you grow up.
That's right.
And we weren't any different from a lot of other. We know a lot of other families and a lot of other couples are in the same situation as us. Some have come through it and some haven't. But that's just the fact of life. But we bought that house solely because we could see with investment it was going to be worth us in the future to do it. And we did it up ourselves.
And we had Dad to
for
help.
a lot of it.
So Dad was doing a lot of the work.
Yeah, which makes a big difference.
Definitely, There's no taking down some of those walls downstairs. Those things are set.
They're there for life.
Yeah, no, they're set in layers of concrete.
I became a TA overnight pretty much.
He learned how to hold gyprock. But, when we lost Dad, that made it a little bit different. We had to then start relying on
tradesmen.
But once again, with my budget, it's been... Yeah, we all say, okay, can we afford to do this? We want to renovate. And we have loaned again since then.
Twice.
A couple of times. But we've always known in advance whether or not we could afford it. The first thing we did was the kitchen.
So when was it, when in that part of the story or in that part of your journey that you decided, was there a moment? Was there a moment in time where you said, we're going to join My Budget, or you heard about us, or a friend told you?
Probably ultimatum time, I think
there was probably a few hints. I'm not saying where they were coming from, but there was probably a few hints along the way. You know, and I'll be the first to admit I'm stubborn when it comes to letting people help when it comes to money, because as I said before, some people like to talk about money, some don't.
It's embarrassing. You don't really want to.
I'm the one that doesn't like to talk about money.
Yeah.
So there were those points, and when you're young and you're married and you're trying to grow a family and all that sort of stuff, the more distractions you can get out of the way, the better. And money was a very big issue for us because of how we handled money. Yeah. And I was, a little bit like the guy that sticks his head in the sand and says, it'll be all right, it'll take care of itself. Because as a single guy, I'd never had a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'd always had money. It was never an issue.
I got to the point where I said to him, I don't like doing this. I'm doing this job and I'm rubbish at it. We would have big arguments because he would come home and he'd try to take money out and there was nothing there. Yeah. And I was always worried that he would check the bank and there would be no money there. And we got to a bit of a point where I said, okay, there's three choices, because we discussed looking at My Budget. We'd seen it.
A couple times.
We'd seen the ads on TV and we thought, that looks like a really good idea. Yeah. And he's like, oh, no, but you've got to give all your money to them. And I'm like, yeah, but wouldn't it just be easier to let them do it? I just want someone else to do this, not me. I said, so you have three choices. You can do this. I'll give you all of the books. I'll give you all of the account numbers and you can do it. Or we can go to My Budget, or we can get a divorce. Pick one, because I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want this angst. We need to do something to stop the constant arguments, because the kids are hearing it and it's not healthy. And he said, okay, we'll go talk to them. And that was the turning point. But the conversation where they said, look what we can do. And we were able to sit down with someone and they showed us, said, yes, you've got a good income. You're both earning well and a little bit higher than most. You shouldn't be in this problem.
No.
And they showed us how we could get slowly paid down. And then there was the negotiation. I had tried to negotiate with our debtors, and I was in fear of that phone call every day. The phone would ring and I'd go, oh, who's this? Back in the day before phones could tell you who was calling. Yeah. And it was off, because it was a home phone. Often it was, this is so-and-so from GE and you're behind. Yeah. And how are you going to catch this up? And I go, absolutely no clue. Idea, because we don't have it.
So you came in to our office and you saw someone and they put the budget together. And what did you think at that appointment, like when you saw the budget?
I was blown away. I thought, how do you do that? How do you forecast, I think is the word you use, so far in advance? I mean, we were used to living, and, as I said, we both had good incomes. But because of the way we spent money and because of the way we budgeted money, it was never enough.
Yeah.
And we think, okay, I've got to go and get another job, or I've got to go and earn more money, or I've got to do this. When really it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with how you're using the money you're actually earning.
And I was a shopper.
And that was the aha moment for us.
Yeah.
As in, okay, so you can do that and you can do that. And I'll admit, I was reluctant at first, thinking, no, this will never work. This will never work.
And the fact that we had to pay you for it, that was another one of his big issues. So, this is going to cost us more money every week. We already can't afford what we've got. Yeah. Why are we adding another bill? And I'm just like, but then I don't have to worry about this anymore. This is not going to be my problem. And I mean, the first few months that we were with you, I was on the phone every couple of days, just
first 3 months,
working it out and refining it so it would work. And the guys were great. Like they're really, really helpful with, okay, well, you could do this and you could, if we move this one day. And that sometimes that really just blew me away, that by moving a payment one day to the next income, that we could free up enough money to pay this bill. And
that's what the visibility does. It shows you that you can do that. And even if you're not the one physically doing it, we're doing it for you. We're going, well, by moving this,
but I
we
can
can create that. And you can see it.
I can see it happening on my screen, on my computer screen.
Yes.
Back then it was a actual computer. It was on the laptop. But it was just awesome to see. Like we had, when hiccups happen. So speeding fines. That was one of his favourite things to go, a speeding fine. And, we'd ring up and we'd do the spur thing where we'd pay it off. But then I could ring you guys and say, okay, well, I've got another speeding fine. And they would just pop it into the budget and it would get paid on time. And we wouldn't forget. That would be my biggest problem. I would forget to pay the negotiated amount of money because I was busy. I was marking assignments and I was doing exams and I was,
probably took us 6 months to get used to the allowance idea, I suppose, if that's the correct word. But
your living expenses.
That's the word, I call it the allowance because that's how I grew up. But, I mean, it took us about probably 6 months to get used to that idea. And we found that quite manageable. Because we could see how much we were getting every Friday. Okay, we need to spend this on this, this on this, this on this, and this on this. And we struggled with sticking to that amount for a little while. But once we got used to that idea, I reckon it's the best thing since sliced bread.
And it was also
great.
And you don't have to worry about anything. That's yours to spend.
I learned to put everything into the budget.
Yes, you learned to do that.
I really was reluctant initially to list all the little things like my fingernails. I like having my fingernails done. It's one of those, I work in an industry where, because I'm a teacher in a kitchen, my hands are in water all the time. And so my fingernails would degrade and they would break and they would hurt. And so getting my nails done was just not an extravagance, but a necessity.
Yeah.
And just putting that $40 a week back then, $4 a fortnight to have my nails done, knowing that I could go without guilt. I would always feel guilty spending that money on myself.
Yeah.
But now it's in the budget and I don't have to worry.
You could even go to the next level of that is the milkman.
Yeah, we had a milkman who was paid.
Put the milkman in the budget.
Yeah.
He retired,
you'd think, why on earth would you do something like that?
Yeah.
But it's surprisingly easy once it's in there. You don't have to think about it.
And it's the peace of mind, right?
That's
you just know you're getting your milk, you're getting your nails, it's all paid for.
That's right.
We were one of his favourite customers because he knew that $15 was landing in his bank account every week. And we were actually slightly overpaying him. So every, like by 30 cents a payment.
We'd get a
gift.
So
every few months we were able to buy chocolate milk.
Nice.
Or we'd get a gift and you'd turn up Christmas time and you'd get plum pudding and custard on the stair with us, and we think, what's that for? And you'd look at his invoice and it would go, zero. And you think, there's nothing better than looking at an invoice that says owing zero.
Because he'd put he'd just figure out how much we were overpaid. And he would give us something that cost that much money. And so but it was putting those little things and figuring out how much we needed each week for things like food, and because food is crazy right now. Even with only feeding 3 of us, I'm still spending over $200 a week on food. Probably. I probably need to assess that a little bit, but mainly by just doing a shopping list. But
it's not even just the consumables.
Food and fuel and
it's the everyday expenses.
The utilities.
Coffee. My coffee money in the morning.
Utilities and that's what MyBudget did for us that we could never do ourselves. So it's like, there's a power bill coming up, and I'd say to Michelle, have we paid the power bill yet? No, I thought you paid it.
Yeah.
And
that was always the juggle. Could you please go in and pay? Because we used to take the paper in and pay the power bill at the post office.
Yeah.
And I would hand him the power bill and say, please pay that today. And then he would forget, get busy, and I would thought he would paid it.
That's right.
But we had got to a situation. There was one time that we didn't have the power money. There was just no way we could pay the power bill. Everything else was paid, and this was before MyBudget. But I had a really nice rose gold bracelet that I'd bought when we were a little bit more affluent. I think it was with one of his commission payments. I had to sell it. That the only way we could pay that bill was for me to hock that. And that was that was one of my little breaking points.
It was,
that I've had to part with that piece of jewellery that I adored.
I'm sure.
Special to me. And
you're not the only clients or people who have been in that situation.
No.
We've seen that many, many times. I personally saw that many, many times myself. So you're not alone in that. And it's, and they are the moments where you go, I want to make a change. And then you did that.
I used to say, this is crazy. I shouldn't have to sell things I love to be able to keep power on. Both working full time. This is nuts.
But unfortunately, there is I suppose society has a stigma about asking for help.
Yes.
And money, as I said before, is one of those things that no one likes to talk about. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think, that was one of the big inspirations for this podcast, is to have amazing people like yourselves come on and share your story to inspire others to say, I'm not alone in this. There are other people that have been through what I'm going through, and you can come out the other side, on top and doing and with and achieving your goals and just living that life without having to worry about money, so you can concentrate on other things in your life. So we are very appreciative that you are brave enough, really, and courageous enough to share your story.
Well, we love to
inspire,
talk, so.
to inspire others, which is great. That is, amazing.
Well, for us, it's about teaching. And I mean, Michelle is a teacher. I'm not a teacher. For us, it's being an example. I mean, you raise kids, you have a family and whatever. And for me, the most important part about raising a family is being the example.
Yes. Yeah.
Very hard to be an example when you're, digging in your pocket to try and pay a bill for $55.
Yeah.
That's not setting a good example for your kids as they grow
and
up.
The arguments.
And we've had that with our kids. I mean, our youngest basically came through the whole stigma, whereas our oldest child, our daughter, our oldest child, never really knew that side of it. But for some unknown reason, she's picked up on how to save money. Don't ask me how that happened. From us.
So,
but that's how it works.
She was about 8 when we started with MyBudget, and she's only ever seen us be sensible.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
And she has savings accounts for everything. She's a savings account for a loan account, a home loan account. She's got a travel account. She's got a car account. She always has $1,500 sitting in her car account just in case, because that covers her if she has an accident, that covers her excess. It covers if something breaks or she needs new tyres. She knows that $1,500 pretty much will cover any car emergency that she has.
Because she's learnt that from us.
She has a travel allowance.
So she knows how your system works because she's seen us use your system.
She's not using your system.
No, she's not on your system. She's got her own, but she's learnt from that example.
No, she doesn't really
That's the whole thing, because she's seen us go, okay, so what's your allocation this week, so to speak? Obviously, we don't talk figures at home, but she knows that we have a fixed amount, and we look at it as a fixed amount to spend that week, and that's how we work, and we go to that,
It took me a while to look at the budget as I can't touch that.
Yeah.
So that money there is not mine. That belongs to all the people we owe money to.
Yeah,
and that took
allocated
me
toward
probably about 12 months to really understand and not see that. Like, I would call up and say, look, I really need this money. I need money for this. Can I take a little bit? No, but then you're not paying your whole bill. So I've got little not lectures. I used to call them not. They didn't actually lecture me, but if we do that, you're going to be behind. I go, okay. So it was a little negotiation in my own head.
Yeah, and a little bit of education.
The person on the other end.
That's exactly what it is. It's an education.
And I did learn how to swing it though. Yeah. So we think we're about 3 or 4 years in.
Yeah.
And I think our son eldest was driving. He finally just started driving. That was trauma all by itself. It's another story.
Don't get me started.
He had his first accident. I'll say first because he's had a few.
First of many.
But yeah, he had his first accident, and of course, because he was a teenager, it was up to us to pay excess. And so I just rang up my budget. I was really worried because it was high because he was young. It was like $800 or $900.
Under 21, so you pay the highest levy possible.
And so I rang up and said, look, I've got this bill I've got to pay for this excess, and we have to pay it in the next couple of weeks. And you guys just did this really clever thing where you just moved this thing over here to the next income, and all of a sudden I had the money, and I rang Phil up and said, "I've got the money for the excess." He goes, "What? How did you get it?" No, they just did this magic thing where they moved this money, and it's coming. It'll be in the bank today. We can pay it today, and because we've also figured out that if we did things really early in the morning, we'd have that money that afternoon.
Yes,
but
yes.
It was just, that was a real revelation for me that we could have an emergency and by just making a phone call, we could have a solution in place.
That's amazing.
It hasn't always been that quick.
Easy, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Or
that's
that
one of
instant, but we can see it.
But that's one of
paying
the
off in the
stigmas, and I mean, for people thinking of using your MyBudget system, I call it a system. It's probably not a system, but I call it a system.
No, yeah, it's a system.
But it's getting used to that, and it's learning to appreciate and use it to your own advantage, so to speak. So I'm the non-spender.
I'm the spender. Absolutely. I still am the spender.
So, and Michelle has a go at me all the time. I'm the person that, if there's a pair of shoes over there for $50, I won't buy them. I'll just walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I know there's money there, I will buy them because it's part of the system. And for a long time, we lived in that scenario where I don't spend any money at all, and the other one spends all the money, and because that's the way we work. Whereas now we're a little bit more flexible, because we know we can see where it's going, and there is those odd occasions. And young families, it's even harder than, even harder than us, but young families, all families, those things happen. They pop up out of nowhere. You never know what's
every now and then
happen.
the hot water system blew up.
Yep.
But we're just sitting there, bang.
Bang.
And like, what the heck? And, that was $2,500. I mean, granted, my mum was paying half of that, 'cause half her house. That was always a good deal for us.
But it's having the confidence
we
that
had the money. We could find the
there.
money for the hot water system replacement. And
it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to accept help, and it's hard to accept that sort of situation can arise and can happen. We see all the time, we can't pay electricity this week, so we'll just turn the power off for a week. I mean, we've never been in that situation.
Yeah.
But we never wanted to get to that situation either.
Yeah.
So, and I've said this many times, and I say it to a lot of our people know that we talk to it. They know we're with you already. So it's easy for us to talk about it. But for us, it was more as we've been with them a couple of years, it was more an investment. We could see what it was doing for us.
The money we pay every week.
Yeah, we could see where it was going.
I look at it as an investment.
And it is.
Yeah.
It's an investment in your life, in your future.
It's one of the biggest questions I get
definitely.
asked. But aren't you paying a lot of money to have this service? I said, well, about $200 a month, which isn't really huge. Oh, that's a lot of money. No, because we're probably saving that in late fees. Because you know how you get the electricity bill. If you pay by this date, you get to pay this much. But if you pay after that date, or with your rego, it's $100 more. We were always paying the more.
Always.
But we couldn't afford to pay the more. But we couldn't afford to pay it by the due date. And we're not paying those. We are never late.
But for us, it's, I don't know what the correct word is, but for us, it's the ease of our financial situation. I mean, we don't have to worry about when that's coming, when that's coming. And we still both earn a good income.
Yeah.
Don't have to spend the time.
But we've done, and as you get older, you want to do more things, and as we've got older, we want to do more things. Like we've been overseas twice. We've bought cars. We've renovated houses. We've done all this type of thing. Whereas if we look back as where we were back then,
we would never have imagined being
never even imagined it. I mean,
rental properties and
I think
amazing.
It's just how it works.
So if you go back to after you joined, what would you say would be the biggest benefit? In the early days, initially going from where you were, and
having
then
a partner. In this process. I mean, Phil still didn't really have a huge amount to do with it, but I had someone to talk to about our finances. So I was able to get on the phone and have someone with knowledge tell me the best way to go. Like not a financial advisor, but someone who could look at my money and say, if we do this, this is going to work out best. And I slowly but surely gained the confidence to not be checking in. I would often open the budget up on my computer and just check where we were at and how much was coming in and going out and stuff like that. But I wasn't having to make the phone calls. I was just able to go in and check. I still, to this day, will log on Friday morning and make sure our incomes have come in. That's always...
I know that because I get the phone call going, your income hasn't come in yet. Where is it?
There's been a couple of occasions where that's happened where I get paid
over the weekend.
I get paid Thursday.
Yeah.
And so most of my workmates will get their pay Thursday afternoon.
Yeah.
But because it's going into the budget, we have to wait till the next day.
The next cycle,
so that when it sweeps into our account. And there's been a few times where it's gone in from our employers late.
Right.
And we've looked at it and there's no money in their budget. And the budget looks horrible because there's no money there.
And
I ring up and it's...
and that sort of stuff.
Yes.
All that happens is that they change the date to the Monday, which is when our incomes will come in. And there's priority. So there's bills and everything. So you have you can't do anything, you can't change these bills, and they all get paid still. And I just have to tell the personal trainer that she's going to get paid a week late. And she's fine. Like there's things that you can't stop. And those bills, the ones that are more negotiable, are able to.
You guys really are the super users of MyBudget. You know, the system.
I'm not very good at the app. I don't tend to use the app very much because I got very used to the...
That took time. And I mean, this isn't something you can go into and not use it. I mean, you go and buy a new car, do you drive it? Of course you do. So, and MyBudget's very good at helping you learn the journey as you go. Like Michelle gets on the phone now and she's on the phone for 10 minutes, whereas 5 years ago she'd be on the phone for half an hour. Just learning the system.
I do make my January call. So my January call is the one where I go, hey, we're putting aside 2 hours right now. I tell them when they ring up, okay, you have me for the next 2 hours because we're going over everything. And so I will sit down with my bank accounts and I'll have a look at any changes, so any date changes, any amount changes, because I've got the budget sitting there and I can say, and this is the only time I spend a considerable amount of time looking at our finances. This is because it's January and I'm on holidays, so I make the most of it. And I will have it all in my diary, and so we'll work our way through all of the payments that are happening and we will fix it so everything lines up.
Yep, perfect.
And I add in anything new.
We take stuff out sometimes too.
Anything that's stopped.
Yep.
Like our milkman stopped. I was devastated when
and do
he
you
retired.
set new goals in January?
Yes.
Yes. Is that one of the things you do where you look ahead for the next 12 months?
We do, and we've learnt to do that.
Well, he turns 60 next year and we'd really like to go
thanks for that. Just tell everybody I turned 60 next year.
You look like you're turning 50.
We'll cut that bit. Thank you very much. I'm refuting
said
that
point. We gave him a surprise birthday party for his 50th, and because his birthday's Boxing Day. It's a bit of a rubbish day.
Members on Boxing Day.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a rubbish day to have. And he'd never ever had a party, and I was able to organise that party because MyBudget was able to bring across. I was able to do it, and it was all clandestine. He didn't know. He knew nothing. He was totally surprised. But next year, he'd like to go somewhere. So we're planning to go maybe to Japan or something.
Oh, amazing!
And that's the sort of thing you can do, though. And I mean, that's once again, that's using the system to our benefit, as a client or the consumer's benefit, however you want to word it. And I mean, it's for me, the whole thing is a peace of mind thing.
Yes, very much.
That's what it is for me. You know? I mean, I know that's going to get paid. That's going to get paid. I mean, I don't even look at the bills now. Michelle opens them, sends them to you, and that's it.
Like, I'll have you paid for the trailer bill. It's nothing. It's like $68 for the year. But it's a trailer, and all I do is I snap my bill and I send that in. That's the only time I use the app. I use the app for the Snap My Bill. And that is really useful. And it just goes in and you guys have it, and I know that it's going to get done. And if we look at ourselves this year, we'll in the 2 years, so from beginning of this year to the end of next year, we'll have done 4 overseas trips.
Wow.
We never even conceived. We thought we would have to wait until we were retired to be able to afford to go overseas.
Yeah.
And we did our first major overseas trip in 2019.
Just before COVID.
Yeah.
Just before
It was
COVID.
just after my daughter graduated in, so we had to finish paying all the school fees.
Yeah,
School
and then you
fees
get a
took
bit of
up
a pay
lot.
rise when you don't have to pay school fees anymore.
Yeah, the school fees took a huge amount of our budget for a
Yeah.
while there. And we always said to ourselves we wanted our kids to have private education. That was one of the things that I was reasonably insistent on. And he came up through CAFED as well, so he got a good education.
Yeah.
And we put aside that money, and we literally, and my daughter finished grade 12 and we finished paying our fees.
Yep.
That was a very big deal. And all of a sudden we had all this money. And we did our first overseas trip in 2019.
So what would you say are the milestones or the things that you're most proud of that you've achieved in your time being a MyBudget
Full
client?
reno of our house.
Probably investing in what we have in assets. I mean, the house for me was a big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a big thing for me, having a house, even more so these days.
Yes.
Yeah.
But,
hard to
we want to do a renovation. Okay, well, let's plan that renovation. Let's put that money aside for renovation and all that sort of stuff, Does everyone want to go overseas all the time? Of course you do. But you have to be able to afford to go overseas all the
Yeah.
time. And that's the whole idea of the program. It tells us when we can. And Michelle will want to buy something, for example, and it might be $3,000 or $4,000.
No, I don't often spend that much.
And it might be, well, when can we do that? Now it's not let's sit down and look at the books. Now it's let's ring you guys.
Yeah.
And you tell us when we can afford to do it.
Yeah.
And you do. You work out, okay, well, if you do this, and this, and save this, and this, then eventually you'll get to that goal. But you said the one accomplishment?
Or
I don't think
the
there is
things-
one, to be honest.
No, I think when we bought our house, it was definitely a fixer-upper.
Yeah.
And now it's a very comfortable, livable
Yeah.
Yeah.
home. It's inviting and it's warm and it's fully air conditioned.
What you need in Queensland.
I think we have
yes.
5 air conditioners in that house now. We have, we put on a 12-meter deck. We put on
Amazing.
lots of area that makes it a home. Before it was a very ugly house, and now it's an attractive home. And then we got a rental property. So getting the rental property was a big
Amazing.
deal. We did sell that at the beginning of the year, but that's because I needed brain surgery again this year, and we were a bit concerned that I wouldn't be able to work. And so knowing what was coming, I knew what was coming for
Yeah.
me because I'd had it before. We sold the property at a good time. We actually ended up getting over more than $5,000 more than we expected to get, and we sold it in 4 days. And we have money in the bank, and we'll do it again. We'll get another rental property.
Yeah.
We're just biding our time and waiting for the prices to come down a bit.
Well,
But
I suppose the other achievement is, and something that I look at myself, is we can help the family.
we can help our kids.
We can help our kids as they grow up, as they get older and they start
Yeah.
having their own kids.
Yeah.
And I mean, we struggled when we
And we
first
had
got
no
married,
way.
and we didn't want to put them under those sort of stresses as they get older and they get married and they try and have kids and whatnot.
Yeah.
And we've been
it's
able
not
to
an
say,
easy thing.
if
No.
you need help, please ask.
Yeah.
I could say no.
Yeah.
But
You ask first.
yeah.
Oldest son's car had problem with his car like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
There's $1,000.
Yeah.
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 No one in the world could he afford that money. It was just never
Yeah.
going to happen. But, they need 2 cars. They've got a baby now. They both work part-time, so they need that money.
And he's
Yeah.
studying. So
we
yeah,
we didn't have that money when they were his
Yeah.
age.
Yeah. And they're
There's
very lucky to have you guys.
No chance we could have done it. But now it's our privilege, I
We
suppose.
have told
more
them
than
though
anything else.
that
We can do
payback
that.
will happen when we retire.
Well, when I retire, he's coming over to mow the yard. That's what
But
And
yeah,
what about your day-to-day life? How has that improved over time?
I can see a sale and go, gee, that's a good. I can buy that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I'm a clothes horse, and I love fashion, and I also love slow fashion.
Mm-hmm.
I teach textiles. I know the damage of the textile industry. And so when I look at clothing online, and you don't pay small amounts of money if you want to buy sustainable clothing. And so, a $300 dress is not something that most people can afford. But I can look at it and say, okay, that $300 dress is only $200 at the moment. That's a really good deal.
Yeah.
And that's an investment I can make.
Yeah.
It's a good thing for my self-image
Yeah.
if I'm wearing a nice dress. And or I can buy something crafty. Like I am a huge crafter. I've got my Cricut machine and I've got my I have a craft room in my house, and I can outfit that and I can buy the new press because I know I can afford it.
It goes back to that peace of mind and having that support there to go, I know I can do this.
That's exactly right.
And I don't have to worry about it. I don't have that stress of worrying like maybe you once did previously.
No. It was definitely a feeling of ill. Like I would often feel physically sick when the phone rang.
And for me, day to day, that's exactly it. You know, the phone rings, I answer the phone. I know it's not going to be someone on the other end of the phone wanting to yell at me, unless it's work. But other than that, like normal everyday things, like, you know, someone rings up, well, you're late with your payment. You know, you're late with your payment, and that's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what they get paid to do. I don't like being on the other end of the phone saying, listen, I can't do that right now, and that we don't get those phone calls
just not knowing
anymore.
that there was an issue in the first place.
We don't get those.
And I would
phone
get,
calls
I would get the phone call. How come I'm getting phone calls about this? And that's where it put a huge amount of pressure on our marriage.
I could imagine.
So we don't talk about money necessarily a lot.
No.
Every now and again we'll chat about, where are we in the budget, or can we afford to do this?
It's usually when we want to do
favourite question.
something. Like, I'd like a new dining table, but we're not going to buy a new dining table at the moment because we've got other things we're doing. And maybe his next commission payment, we'll get a new dining table.
So it sounds like you've got your priorities right. Like you work out, this is the income, these are our priorities, and then that helps you.
Well, there's nothing wrong with our dining table. It's just too big.
But you've got to be able to, I can't express it properly, but it's getting to a situation of control, giving over the control to someone that can do it better than you can,
but we feel in
and
control.
trusting the process. But we're still in control. We can ring you up and say, no, I don't want you to pay that. I want to buy this instead. And sure, you're going to have a little voice in the side of your head going, do you really want to do that?
At the moment it is, that money that we were sending over to savings, we'll grab that out and we'll use that for this thing that is a really good deal right now, and we've been wanting to do. We're in conversations about whether or not we end up getting a pool. So we both have wanted to have a pool. We found out just recently that getting a decent pool is going to cost us $80,000. So we put a halt on that one.
Put a hold on that.
Because we don't want to spend $80,000 right now on a pool. But we could afford a swim spa. So it's that negotiation of what is it? Can we meet that goal another way?
Yeah, and it sounds like you're totally in control, because you're right. There's probably this perception that if I join MyBudget, I'll lose control of my finances. But in actual fact, you gain more control than you probably ever had in your life.
We're the captain of our ship now.
That's right.
And we're actually able to steer it.
But it's getting over that initial fear.
Hitting the reef way too often.
Which is what your new clients
are feeling.
What we faced.
Yes.
You know? And Michelle said it at the very start there, Phil didn't want to do it because he didn't want to lose control. That's true.
Yes.
I mean, not everyone's a control freak, but there's only certain things you can control.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, once you see the benefit of the system letting it work for you, you're more than happy to do it.
I'm sure it's also been good for our health as well.
Oh,
yes.
most definitely.
He used to get ulcers. He's never had another ulcer.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Since starting with MyBudget.
So what advice would you give to anyone that's listening that might be struggling with their payments or feeling stressed out about their
talk to someone? You can just, I know from talking to my cousin, worked for you guys for a while, and he had to turn people away mainly because they wouldn't come to the party. They wouldn't listen to the advice that was being given to them, and they wouldn't go. And he said the only time we can't help is if people won't really listen. And I just say, actually listen to what's being said, because this service, and it is a wonderful service, is so worthwhile. It will take so much pressure. I don't have to spend hours dealing with my finances every week. I can put that into, sewing a dress or doing something I enjoy, reading a book, instead of sitting and fussing over bills and looking at spreadsheets. And it's not my idea of fun. It might be other people. It may be your idea of fun, but it is not my idea of fun. That is not fun. It is nice to look at go in and have a look at the budget and see how well it's doing. That's something I enjoy.
So what would be the biggest lessons that you guys have learned over the last 11 years?
Priorities.
Yeah, priorities, yeah.
That would be, and that was what I was going to say to you. You just said to me then, you said to me, and Michelle answered hers. I mean, mine is for new people thinking of coming to you or thinking of talking to you or listening to whatever, have a look at your priorities first. What do you want out of life? What do you want to achieve is probably the biggest three things. I mean, everybody knows how to talk, but does everyone know how to listen? And I mean, the biggest thing that is in everyone's way is listening and taking advice.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you've got all these great things now with technology and iPads and all these programs you can show people and everything else, but the number one thing people need to learn to do is to listen. And that's probably the biggest thing. And anyone wanting to join My Budget is, give it a go. Have a listen. Have a look at all the technology and have a look at all the programs
Make an
available.
Come and see. I mean, because it costs you nothing to have that initial appointment and have it all run through. And it's a yes or no. You are either going to do it or you're not. But unless you ask questions, you're not going to know how you can be helped.
And then it's a journey, right?
Yeah.
So
most definitely.
From there, and I always say this almost in every podcast episode, it's our clients who are the courageous ones who join, and they are the ones making the difference in their life. My Budget are your financial partner, and we're there to help you every step of the way, but it's our clients who make those decisions.
And it may not
they make the changes.
It may not be easy to start with. You may have to make some changes in how you view your finances, but those changes will be beneficial to you in the long run.
That's right.
You may have to tighten your belt. You may not be able to go out with the girls or out with the boys on Friday night every week.
Yep.
But are you willing for your own sanity and your family to make those changes so that you can in the future? I mean, if we wanted to go out on Friday night every week, we could now. Well, I mean, we might not be able to buy the craft stuff.
Not that we would.
So you can forget it. But, we could.
Yeah.
And
as I said, it's priorities for me.
Yeah.
I mean, as a person listening to a podcast and they're listening to it, so they're obviously interested in it.
Yes.
And my one question I would ask that person is, what is your priority? That's the number one thing. Like for us, it was about our relationship.
Yeah.
That's what threw me in the end and brought me over in the end was, I could see what it was doing to Michelle. I could see what it was doing to us as a partnership and as a married couple. I could see that personally. And that's what made me sign up.
Yeah. And I think that was one of the things I didn't realise when I started My Budget. I thought people would say to me, thanks for sorting out our finances. But what I was actually hearing was, thanks for saving our marriage.
Exactly.
We don't fight over money anymore.
That's right.
And you saved our marriage, and our children still have their parents together.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that took me a little by surprise. And then I realised that money has such a big impact on your life.
I mean, we really did. I just said we had conversations about no longer being together. I said, but look at how what's going to happen. So you're going to live somewhere else. That's rent. I'm going to live somewhere else. That's rent. The kids may not be able to go to their school. Like the logistics of that whole not being together part. And this one doesn't like to lose money.
No, I don't.
We had a little kerfuffle at 5 just before we had kids, and the way that we worked it out was I said, I'm going to get rid of the rental property and you're going to lose all your bond. He came back.
Exactly.
So losing money for Phil was something that was definitely a trigger.
Yeah.
And by coming to My Budget, we were able to show that we would save money.
Yeah.
Even though we're spending money, we were going to save money in the long run, and it definitely has been that for us.
And so you created those savings, and you've been able to achieve so much with those savings.
Yeah. But we also knew, like, if even if we couldn't save up for something and we needed to loan. So that first trip we took to the UK, we got a personal loan for that because we got a really good deal. My mum got this awesome deal package, and we loaned $10,000, but we paid that off in under the time that we knew that we had that. We went to My Budget and said, we want to do this loan because this is a really good opportunity because my mum's with Wyndham. and she had these tickets for cheaper, and so we took the loan and we paid it, instead of it being a 4-year loan, we made it a 2-year loan.
Yeah, amazing.
We paid it off quickly.
But it wasn't a stressful loan for us because we knew we'd already handed that to you guys. Can we afford to do this? How are the payments going to work?
The same with the kitchen when we did our first reno.
Yeah.
We loaned
and you could
for the
afford
kitchen.
it.
Yeah.
And you put it in your budget
and
and you could afford those repayments.
Yeah. And little things. We've done a few little things where we've just used a loan and we've been able to pay it off quicker.
Yeah.
And now we are actually, we're saving considerable amounts of money. We're saving over $2,000 a month.
Amazing.
Into an account. And there's another $1,000 a month going off to an Africa trip we're taking next year. We're doing a mission trip for our church to Uganda. And we were able to look at that advertised, like they put up a thing that we're going to Uganda, who wants to join us? And Phil and I looked at it, that would be so much fun. I would really enjoy that. And he goes, you reckon we could afford it? I said, I reckon
that
we
was
can.
my first question. Can we afford that?
And I said, I reckon. So I rang that Monday. I rang and I said, okay, it will be $6,000 and it's next May. And we need to be finished paying by the end of March. End of March.
I think it is, yeah.
We'd have to be all paid off by then. And we figured out $250 a week. Done. And we're still saving
amazing
$2,000 a month.
Amazing.
Into our savings
account. Your savings account. Well, you guys should be so very proud, and we are very thankful that you've come on to share your story. Is there anything else that for anyone listening who, whether or not they're considering joining MyBudget or they're just on that journey about doing better with their finances, is there anything else that you would want to share?
Save yourself time, save yourself stress of having to deal with this. There is somebody who, for a small amount every week, will happily take that for you and manage it, and you don't have to remember to pay the bill. It's done.
Yeah.
I know I'm totally rubbish. I mean, even if it's on the calendar, that's not necessarily something I'm going to read. I mean, and we've got some good technology. Back in our day, we had to write it all on the calendar and actually pay attention to the calendar.
Sit down with a foolscap pad and write it all out every month.
But even with a reminder on my watch or my phone, I would still not necessarily remember. Me and my ADHD, we get distracted really quickly. And I can, shiny, and that's it. I've forgotten to do that.
Yep.
That is our lifestyle these days too. Everybody is living a really busy, fast lifestyle, and MyBudget definitely fits into that. So even if you're young and upcoming, and it's just makes, you can just hand it over. And you get your little income at the end of every week, and that's the money I can spend. I can do whatever I want with that money that comes into my bank account on Friday. It's ours. Sometimes we go through it way too quick. And I ring up the budget and go, I just need another couple of $100 to get to the end of the week. Ching, ching, ching. And we've got a couple of $100 extra to get us to the end of the week. And it is that knowing that in the back of my mind that, okay, we can have dinner out again because our friends are in from town and this is an opportunity. And I'll just talk to the budget next week and we'll just replace that money.
Amazing.
And it is. It just saves so much time and stress.
Thank you. Yeah. And what about yourself?
I'd agree with all that, but I mean, for me, it was more about stress. I mean, we all know these days the cost of living is getting higher, things are getting more expensive, your money's not going as far, and I mean, we weren't in the bracket where we came to you where we had no money. We were the other end, as in we had the money, we just didn't know what the hell to do with it.
Yeah. It was how you're managing it.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean,
robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Your system works for both ends. It works for people that don't have a lot of money and they're trying to budget a smaller income, right through to, okay, there's your bigger amount of money, you got to work out how to manage it and set goals. Yeah. That's probably the big thing that we learn. Yeah.
We look towards a retirement now that we think will be comfortable.
You know, our first overseas trip was a big goal for us. That was a big thing for us. We never thought I'd say Bribie Island, but you guys probably don't know where Bribie Island is. For you, it would be a trip to Glenelg for a week away. For us, it's a trip to Bribie Island.
Right, Kangaroo Island.
And that was a big thing for us. Whereas for us, probably the biggest aha moment for us is, so we can save money to go overseas.
Amazing.
And travel, and that's the sort of thing. Now next goal is retirement, and what do we do next?
But, and having an understanding now of how my budget works. We've been looking at our super. And okay, where's our super going to take us? So I've got a super fund manager now, and we're looking at. I currently have 2 super funds because one of them has better insurance than the other, and so we've got the original one, and then we've got one that is performing better as far as making more money. And so I've been able to do the forward thinking, whereas before we thought we were never going to be able to retire,
No.
and at the moment we now know that. I'm kind of hoping that when he retires, I'll be able to go at the same time because there's 5 years between us, and normally you work. I'm hoping that we'll be able to just stop together and enter retirement,
which will be lovely.
Living the way we have become accustomed.
I don't think I'll ever stop, but
We'll slow down together.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I'll start making cakes on a regular basis because that's my little side hustle, and that's something that I knew that. When I first started doing side hustles, it was always to see if I could make a little bit more money for the family, and none of them ever really paid off until I started making the cakes. And I can make money making cake, but that money became ours. So if I had a cake, and I spent Friday night into early Saturday morning working on a cake, that money that I get paid is play money. We could play with that money because we knew all the bills were covered, and we could go to the movies and have a decent night out, or maybe book a weekend in the city for it together.
But I suppose the summary for us, to put it in plain, simple language, is you keep saying thank you to us. We need to say thank you to you guys.
Yeah,
You don't see it from our side; you see it from your side.
Yeah. He's going to cry. Yeah, we are really appreciative of this program that you have set up. It has saved our relationship. It has certainly saved us a lot of money.
A lot.
If I looked back at the amount of late fees we probably have saved, probably a good 10 grand or so of savings there. And for a small amount of money a week, we've got rid of stress, we've saved money, and we're able to have, go on a holiday and spend a bit of money and buy some nice food and have memories. I think that's big. We've become a very much experience shoppers these days, so not as much things. And we were recently able to take our family away. We went up to Mapleton outside, up in the Glass Mountains, and we took our whole family and we rented a property, and we got to spend almost 48 hours with our grandson full on for that time. And it was just a lovely family weekend in a beautiful old house all together. And we haven't had the family together under the same roof like that for a little while. Yeah. And Sean got married in 2017. Yeah. So, and his wedding was a good example of how you guys have helped us, because he broke his wrist 8 weeks before the wedding, and that meant he couldn't work, so he couldn't pay for some of the things. So we had this negotiation of what they were paying for and he was paying for and we were paying for, and we were able to step up and help with the food, and because we rang them up and okay, we just need a bit more extra money for this wedding, and it was there. The money was available to help.
How incredible! Well, you guys should feel really proud of what you've done.
We are.
And I want to thank you for thanking MyBudget and for, taking a chance on us and our service and our people. And I'm so proud of you and what you guys have achieved. And again, really grateful that you've come on to share your story and your journey. Gratitude is a bit of a theme of this podcast. And so there's always 3 questions that we ask our guests towards the end of the podcast session. So what is it that you are most grateful for?
Our relationship, the fact that we still have it.
Amazing.
Yeah. Peace of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible. And if you had a billboard, and this is a question we ask everybody, if you had a billboard, what is the message that you would want to put out to the world?
Okay. It'd be a bit Nike. Just do it. Just do it. Step out, take the step, and just give it a go.
Listen.
Yeah, listen.
I love that. Very succinct. Yeah. And funnily enough, the last clients that I interviewed said exactly the same words. Just do it.
Just do it.
It's like a Nike ad. Just do it. Yep. Amazing. So where to now? What's the future for you guys? What are your
Travel.
future goals?
As much travel as we can possibly get in.
More probably some more travel. Like, we enjoy traveling, and it's something that
No,
we
rental
never thought
property.
we'd be able to do. I mean, some more travel, but now at the stage of life we're in, and everyone thinks I'm old because I am
We are
getting
not.
old. It's
60 is the new 40.
No, that's so young.
what's in it for us for the next 10, 15 years. You know, we want to set ourselves up where we can travel, where we can do this and we can do that, which is something we never thought we'd be able to do. So that's probably what's in it for us.
Have stuff to leave our kids too. We'll get back into that whole housing market. We'll just wait for it to get a little bit less crazy.
If that ever happens.
Wait for the interest rates to come down a bit.
If that ever happens.
We're aware of that stuff now though too.
Yeah.
And
And just be in a position
we're
to help.
educated.
Yeah.
And be in a position to help. I mean, as I said before at the start, one of my big goals is to be in a position to help family.
Yeah.
And we never would have been able to do that without my budget.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Again, really appreciate you taking the time to come and share your story. It is really important, and I'm sure you, just now, and anyone listening to this, you're changing their life. You're changing their life because you're probably inspiring them to do better and be exactly like you guys and live their life and not worry about money. So thank you again.
Happy to help.
Thanks for joining us today. To hear more about our stories and budgeting tips, head to mybudget.com.au to check out our resources there. We've got free budget plans that you can download, and if you're interested in taking that next step so you can start living your life free from money worries, just give us a call and book in your free appointment. It won't cost you anything but your time.
MyBudget Australian Financial Services Licence and Australian Credit Licence number 391759.